The Maple Leafs won their first Stanley Cup on April 9th, 1932, after sweeping the New York Rangers, and the hometown fans at the Gardens partied for about an hour afterwards, refusing to leave the stands. Frank Selke, the Leafs business manager, had his fingers all over that victory. When running Toronto's junior team, the Marlboros, he found the kind of young and tough talent that was critical for the big club's success. Players like Conacher, Jackson, Horner, and Levinsky. In the summer of '32, Selke submitted this expense sheet, which was stamped and initialed and given the official OK by Conn Smythe. I don't know how Frank Selke celebrated that cup victory, but I like to think that these expenses were somehow involved. Perhaps they went towards paying Busher Jackson's bar tab. In November of that year, just as the 9-team NHL was about to launch the 32-33 season, Smythe and Selke were featured in a national magazine article about the Leafs and the club's beginnings. This was a direct result of the buzz Smythe had created with his winning team and new money-making arena, which would be referred to as a multi-purpose facility today. All that success resulted in revenue-making opportunities for individual players, like this Christmas-time ad for King Clancy skates, as well as for the team itself and its cup-winning portrait, which appeared on collectible items like hockey equipment promotions, and this jigsaw puzzle for the team's radio broadcasts, which were sponsored by General Motors. In early 1933, familiar names Conacher, Jackson, and Primo were still the top scorers in the Leafs lineup. However, some new additions to the roster also made an impact, including Charlie Sands and Ken Doherty, remember that name, as well as future All-Star Bill Toms. Though they improved on their previous year's regular season point total, the team could not repeat its playoff heroics. They beat the Bruins in the semis in 5 games, but lost to the Rangers in the finals in 4. Now, not to make excuses, but Toronto played 6 overtime periods in that deciding Game 5 against Boston at Maple Leaf Gardens. When it was suggested after 4 frames of extra time that the game be decided by a coin toss, Baldy Cotton started swearing and cursing so loudly and vehemently against the idea that Smythe dropped it. The Leafs won the game on a goal by Ken Doherty at 1:55 a.m., after which they got on a train for New York City to play Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals the same day, totally exhausted. Doherty had 2 goals in the Leafs' only victory in that Rangers series and was Toronto's top playoff scorer. Regardless of their lack of a championship, the team's sky-high celebrity meant that when Hap Day got married in the summer of 1933, more than 3,000 people turned out into the streets to watch. It was like a royal wedding, but hockey. Here you see Day flanked by best man King Clancy and groomsmen Ace Bailey, Joe Primo, Red Horner, and Baldy Cotton. Sometimes it's easy to forget the impact that Red Horner had on the Leafs, since many of his teammates had flashier careers. Starting that year, the rugged defenseman led the NHL in penalty minutes for 6 of the next 7 seasons, and his presence certainly allowed the likes of Primo, Bailey, and Jackson to weave their magic, and for Clancy to get away with his on-ice shenanigans, since they said King often started fights but rarely finished them. Having Horner on your bench would have also helped in newcomers like Frank Buzz Bowl, who joined the Leafs in 33-34, his first of 6 seasons with the club. When you look at a photo of that year's team, you see a few new faces as well, like William Flash Hollett, Toronto-born Jack Schill, and 8-year veteran Heck Kilray. But the biggest difference you'll notice is in net, where Smythe replaced Lorne Chabot with multiple Stanley Cup champ and Vezina Trophy winner George Hainsworth. Hainsworth is on the far right, and backup Benny Grant on the far left. But in reality, Hainsworth played every minute in 1933-34, and Grant was eventually let go after appearing in 20 games for the Leafs since coming over with Chabot in 1928. Grant would later return to the club for a stint during the Second World War. This ad is for a November 28, 1933 match against the New York Americans. It was game number 6 of the Leafs' young season, and they played it in Toronto. Unlucky game number 13, however, was in Boston. The Bruins had lost that 6 overtime playoff game to the Leafs, as well as the regular season's opener, so they had some scores to settle. Led by Hall of Famers like Nell Stewart, Dick Clapper, and Eddie Shore, they were a tough team. Late in the game, with the Leafs winning, Red Horner hit Shore hard. And when Shore got up, he violently retaliated against the very first Leaf he saw, Ace Bailey. Bailey was blindsided and driven headfirst into the ice, knocked unconscious, and went into convulsions. The doctors who treated him said he had suffered a bruised and torn brain, a blood clot, and a fractured skull. Everybody thought Bailey was going to die, and reports were that Shore would be charged with manslaughter if he did. But he survived. Here's Conn Smythe, 3 days after Bailey's injury, back in Toronto, overseeing Garden's business and awaiting the news on his star right-winger's recovery. Perhaps Smythe was consoled by the fact that after Eddie hit Ace, Red Horner knocked Shore out and gave him 7 stitches in the process. Now, here's one of my favorite photos in this series. It's of Ace Bailey and his wife, Gladys, in a Boston hospital on January the 12th, 1934, 1 month after he was hurt. And it's also the first photo of him taken after those injuries. Needless to say, Ace Bailey would never play pro hockey again, so the team organized a fundraising charity game at Maple Leaf Gardens in his honor. It was held on Valentine's Day, 1934, with Toronto taking on the league's best players, including Eddie Shore. In 1947, this format produced the NHL's All-Star Game. Bailey would later be a successful varsity hockey coach, and from 1938 to 1984 was the timekeeper at the Gardens. Here's Jack Schill, shortly before the Bailey benefit match. Perhaps Jack was all smiles because Toronto had just retired Ace's number 6, becoming the first NHL team to honor a player in that way. More than $20,000 was raised for Bailey and his family from the game, which the Leafs won 7-3. The true highlight occurred before puck drop, when he publicly forgave Shore with a handshake at ice level. Though I've beaten you and flayed you, by the living God that made you, you're a better man than I am, Ace Bailey. Just like last year, the Maple Leafs improved on their previous regular season record but fell short in the playoffs, going out in the semifinals against the Red Wings. Here's another stamped expense sheet, this time from that series against Detroit. It shows monies paid out to Charlie Conacher, Bill Toms, Alex Levinsky, and Baldy Cotton while the team was on the road in the Motor City. Not with them, of course, was Ace Bailey. This is his 1934 Gaudy Sports King hockey card, the only Maple Leaf they included in their series. And though it references Bailey's career-ending injuries, Eddie Shore's card makes no reference to the incident. Just saying. As the middle of the decade rolled around, Canada was still hurting from the Great Depression. But even harsh economic times, the loss of Ace Bailey, and the inability to win a second Stanley Cup did not diminish the luster of the Maple Leafs brand. It was shining brightly, reflecting a broadcasting relationship fostered over decades.